So how do you choose the right camcorder for you? Well, the first thing to do is to take off your emotional head and put on your business head. It's all too easy to get caught up in all the hype surrounding the latest camera to be released, when in fact actually that might not be the one that's going to be best for what you do. And broadly there are 4 types of camcorder available today, starting with the DSLR type camera, moving up to the handheld handycam camera that you might hold in front of you, to the ENG camera that goes on your shoulder, to the large sensor cameras with Super 35 or full frame sensors. And if we look at each of those, there are pros and cons to each. DSLRs are generally very good value for the money and they do produce great images. But they are large sensor cameras, and one of the problems with any of the large sensor cameras is creating affordable parfocal zoom lenses. So that's a zoom lens that stays in focus as you zoom in and zoom out. And a parfocal lens for a large sensor camera is almost inevitably going to be big and bulky, and if you want a large zoom ratio, it's going to be very expensive. Also, the DSLRs are not always well laid out ergonomically for video production. They're great for taking photos, but less suited often for video. So if we move on then to the Handycam camcorders, well, the big advantage of those is that because they do generally have a much smaller sensor, making a wide range zoom lens is much easier. And because that lens is integrated into the camera body, it's very carefully matched to the sensor, and you can get huge zoom ranges in a relatively low cost, very affordable camera. And the quality of the codecs and everything else in these is now much improved, and they really do produce good quality images for not a lot of money. And next up from that is the traditional on-the-shoulder ENG camera. Now these you can almost always change the lenses on them, and there's a huge range of zoom lenses that you can put on them. These cameras are great for sports, live events such as concerts and things like that, where you need to get very tight with a long focal length zoom lens. But that comes at a price. You have to buy a lens that's typically fairly expensive in itself, as well as the camera, and ENG cameras do tend to be quite pricey. But if your main business is documentary and news production, it might still be the right choice for you. Then that last category is the large sensor, what we might call digital cinematography cameras with a Super 35 or full frame sensor. These are all the rage these days, and it's what everybody is talking about. And the main reason they're talking about them is the quality of the images that they produce is very good. That big sensor gives you high dynamic range, low noise, high resolution and great color. But like the DSLRs, we have this same issue with zoom lenses because of the big sensor. So you're probably going to need a wide range of lenses for that camera, and you're probably going to end up having to swap lenses a fair bit during most of your productions. But they do produce beautiful looking images. Now, of course, the other option that we haven't covered yet is buying more than one camera. If you are looking at perhaps a digital cinema style camera, perhaps you don't want to buy the very latest or the most expensive camera, and instead go one step down the ladder, buy a mid-range one, leaving you enough money perhaps to buy a Handycam as well that you can use when you need that big zoom range. And that really is something to be considered. It never is easy choosing a camcorder for yourself because there are so many choices, and there really isn't a one-fits-all solution. So do take that emotional head off, put the business head on, look at what it is that you really need out of your camcorder, and go from there.